Have you noticed how certain things that used to bother you just don't anymore? As we move through our 60s and beyond, something shifts. What once kept us up at night, how we looked, how others saw us, whether we were doing enough starts to lose its grip. You might wake up one morning and realize that the pressure to prove, please, or perform just doesn't make sense anymore. In this video, we're exploring 12 things that simply don't matter after 61. These aren't just petty annoyances or passing thoughts. They're deeply rooted habits and worries that quietly shaped your younger years. But now they deserve a second look, because letting go of them doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping into a life that feels lighter, clearer, and far more your own. So if you've ever felt like you were carrying invisible weight, this might just be the moment you put it down. Whether it's old expectations, social rules, or self-imposed pressure, you'll likely find that life after 61 is less about holding on and more about knowing what to release. Stay with me until the end, because by the time we reach the number 12, you might see your current season of life in a very different light. Not as a decline, but as a quiet return to what truly matters. Now let's get started. Number 1, what others think of you. One of the first things that stops making sense after 61 is worrying about what people think of you. In your younger years, it was almost second nature, wondering if you were being judged, measuring your decisions against what others might say, or holding back because you didn't want to be seen the wrong way. But somewhere along the way, that burden starts to feel unnecessary. You've lived enough, seen enough, and weathered enough to know that no one else walks in your shoes but you. There's a quiet freedom that comes with age, a kind of inner permission to be exactly who you are, without dressing it up or toning it down. The need for approval fades not because you stop caring entirely, but because you realize how little most people are actually paying attention. And even when they are, their opinion doesn't change your reality. Think about it. The friends who truly care about you aren't keeping score. They don't care if you wear the same shoes every day, if your laugh is a little louder now, or if you take a bit longer to finish your story. They care about your presence, your wisdom, and the way you make them feel. And those who do judge, most of the time they're projecting their own insecurities onto you. It's not about becoming indifferent, it's about becoming grounded. You stop chasing the impossible dream of being liked by everyone, and instead you start showing up as yourself fully and unapologetically. Whether it's the way you dress, what you choose to say, or how you spend your time, you begin to trust your own compass more than the crowd's reaction. And that trust, it changes everything. It shows in how you walk into a room, how you handle disagreements, even how you rest at night. You realize that fitting in is far less important than feeling at peace with who you've become. Number 2, chasing status or titles. Another thing that begins to lose its grip after 61 is the idea that titles or status define your worth. In the earlier chapters of life, so much energy gets poured into climbing ladders, earning recognition, or being seen as successful in the eyes of the world. Job titles, degrees, social standing, they all seem to carry this invisible weight. But as time passes, you start to notice something. Those labels don't stick the way they used to. You meet people who've done incredible things, and you realize that what makes them remarkable isn't what they've achieved. It's who they are when no one's watching. The truth is, after a certain point, people stop asking what you do and start noticing how you are. Are you kind? Are you grounded? Do you make others feel seen? At 61 and beyond, many people begin to redefine what success looks like. It's no longer about being the best in the room. It's about being the most present, the most compassionate, the most real. That constant push to be somebody turns into a quieter desire to be yourself, without the heavy armor of professional titles or social labels. And once that shift happens, the need to compete or compare fades away. You realize that your identity isn't tied to a resume, a paycheck, or how many people recognize your name. In fact, some of the happiest, most fulfilled people in their 70s and 80s are the ones who let go of all that noise and just focused on living well. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3. Keeping toxic relationships. After 61, one of the most liberating truths is this: you no longer have to keep people in your life just because they've always been there. The idea that longevity equals loyalty starts to unravel. Whether it's an old friend who drains your energy, a family member who constantly disrespects your boundaries, or someone who just brings more stress than peace, you begin to realize that time is too precious to be spent managing relationships that hurt more than help. In your earlier years, there might have been reasons to hold on: fear of being alone, guilt, habit, or a sense of obligation. But with age comes clarity. You start to notice how your body reacts around certain people. The tension in your shoulders, the forced laughter, the way you prepare yourself emotionally before seeing them. And slowly, you begin to ask, why am I still doing this? Letting go of toxic relationships doesn't mean you're unforgiving or cold-hearted. It means you're finally putting your well-being first. It means you've earned the right to choose peace over pretense, clarity over confusion, and joy over just surviving. Many older adults describe a kind of emotional spring cleaning that happens naturally. You begin to prioritize quality over quantity. Instead of a wide circle full of shallow or stressful interactions, you seek out a few meaningful mutual connections that feel easy, warm, and real. You stop pretending, stop accommodating, and start honoring your own limits. And the beautiful part, once you release what weighs you down, you make room for people who uplift you, see you, and accept you as you are. People who don't demand that you shrink or shift to make them comfortable. After 61, that kind of freedom becomes non-negotiable. Number 4. Overcommitting your time. By the time you reach your early 60s, something becomes crystal clear. Your time is your most sacred currency. And overcommitting, saying yes out of habit, guilt, or pressure, starts to feel like giving away pieces of your life that you'll never get back. In your younger years, it might have felt necessary to show up everywhere, help everyone, or keep up with endless obligations. But after 61, that equation shifts. You begin to understand that your time is not just valuable, it's finite. There's a difference between being generous and being drained. And many older adults come to realize that constantly filling your calendar doesn't mean you're living fully. It often just means you're avoiding stillness. But in that stillness, you discover what truly matters. The long walks, the slow meals, the meaningful conversations that don't feel rushed. Those are the moments you start protecting fiercely. Overcommitting can sneak up in quiet ways. Agreeing to help with something when your body's asking for rest. Feeling bad about saying no to a social event, or pushing yourself to meet others' expectations at the expense of your own peace. But after a certain point, you begin to choose differently. You learn that saying no isn't selfish, it's wise, it's an act of self-respect, and something remarkable happens when you start honoring your limits. The people who really matter understand. They don't take it personally. They don't make you feel guilty, because they know that when you do show up, it's genuine, it's wholehearted, and it comes from a place of abundance, not obligation. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself after 61 is the permission to be selective, to leave space on your calendar, to pause before saying yes, because your time is not just something you spend, it's the way you honor your one and only life. Number 5. Fighting every wrinkle or gray hair. One of the quietest forms of exhaustion is trying to erase every sign of age from your body. And after 61, many people start to ask why. The creams, the hair dyes, the procedures, the pressure to look youthful, they all come from a world that hasn't caught up to the beauty of aging with grace. But you're not here to chase the standards of a 30-year-old. You've earned every line, every silver strand, every mark that tells your story. That's not to say you stop caring about how you present yourself. But there's a difference between self-care and self-worth, between honoring your body and being at war with it. After a certain age, you begin to realize that aging isn't something to be fixed. It's something to be understood, to be respected, even celebrated. There's a certain radiance that comes from someone who's made peace with the mirror, who no longer apologizes for growing older, but instead carries themselves with pride, humor, and warmth. And when you let go of the idea that you have to hide your age, something remarkable happens. You become more magnetic, more real, more you. The irony is, people aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to presence. And when you stop trying to turn back the clock, you start turning up the volume on everything that's uniquely you. So if you've spent years trying to look younger, just to feel enough, let this be your permission to stop. You are not less because your skin has changed, or your hair has grayed. You are more seasoned, more soulful, more whole, and nothing about that needs covering up. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 5 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 6. Forcing yourself into uncomfortable trends. After 61, the idea of keeping up with every trend, whether it's in fashion, technology, lifestyle, or even speech, begins to feel, well, ridiculous. In your younger years, there might have been a pressure to stay relevant, to fit in with what was current or popular. But over time, you come to realize that comfort, ease, and authenticity carry far more weight than being trendy. You stop buying clothes that look good on mannequins, but feel awful on your skin. You stop downloading apps you don't care about just to seem with it. And you stop twisting yourself into whatever shape society says is acceptable this season. Instead, you begin choosing what feels right for your body, for your rhythm, for your life. You see, trends are fleeting, but style, the way you carry yourself, the way you live, the values you express, that's timeless. Some of the most compelling people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond are the ones who know exactly what works for them, not because it's new, but because it's true. True to who they are, what they've lived through, and what they actually care about. Trying to keep up with everything only leads to exhaustion and disconnect. And once you let go of that pressure, you create space for something much deeper alignment. You begin to ask better questions. Not what's in, but what matters. Not will this impress someone, but does this feel like me? That shift brings a quiet joy. You walk into a room and feel at home in your own skin. You dress not for the eyes of others, but for the dignity of self. You live by your own rhythm, not the ticking clock of trend cycles or external approval. And in doing so, you send a quiet message to everyone around you. This is what it looks like to age with integrity. Number 7. Holding grudges. Something happens after you've lived a few decades. You begin to see how much space bitterness can take up. And by the time you reach your 60s, holding grudges starts to feel less like strength and more like an anchor. You realize that the energy it takes to stay mad, to replay old arguments in your mind, or to carry resentment through the years, it's just not worth what it cost you. In your younger days, maybe it felt necessary, like you had to hold on to that memory, that slight, that injustice as proof that you were wronged, that it mattered, that your feelings were valid. But with age comes perspective, and part of that perspective is realizing that forgiveness isn't always about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. When you hold a grudge, you're the one carrying it. You're the one who feels it every time you hear their name, or recall the moment. And slowly, you begin to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my days? Not out of denial, or pretending things didn't hurt, but from a place of choosing peace over poison. Letting go doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile. It means you refuse to let what happened in the past steal one more moment of your present. And when you reach this season of life, that becomes a powerful choice to prioritize inner calm over keeping score. Many older adults describe forgiveness as an unexpected gift they gave themselves. They say things like, "I didn't realize how heavy it was until I finally set it down." And it shows in their face, their health, the softness of their presence. You can see the difference between someone who's made peace and someone who's still fighting old battles. So if there's something you've been holding on to, maybe it's time, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Number 8, apologizing for your boundaries. After 61, you start to realize that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. And perhaps even more importantly, you see that explaining or apologizing for them is no longer necessary. For much of life, especially if you were raised to be agreeable, helpful, or nice, You might have felt the need to soften your no, justify your rest, or over-explain your choices, just to avoid disappointing others. But with time comes wisdom. You begin to see that constantly overextending yourself, just to avoid conflict or rejection, slowly erodes your sense of peace. And the truth is, people who respect you don't need explanations. They understand that a boundary isn't a rejection, it's an act of clarity. It's a way of saying, this is how I take care of myself, so I can show up for what truly matters. There's tremendous strength in being able to say, no, I won't be able to, or that doesn't work for me, without scrambling to fill in excuses or reasons. You learn to leave space between your decisions and others' reactions, because you know deep down that your life isn't a group project, it's yours. And something beautiful happens when you stop apologizing for your needs. People start meeting you where you are, not where they expect you to be. You model a kind of self-respect that invites healthier relationships. You begin to attract others who value mutual understanding, not constant access. Even in simple moments, deciding not to answer a call late at night, turning down an invite when you need rest, or protecting quiet time in your day, you stand firm without guilt. Not because you've hardened, but because you've softened toward yourself. After 61, boundaries aren't barriers, they're lifelines. They help you preserve your energy, your joy, and your ability to show up authentically. And when you stop apologizing for them, you finally give yourself the room to breathe. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 8 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 9. Proving your productivity. There's a silent race many people run for decades. The race to be seen as productive, to always be doing, to have something to show for every hour. But after 61, that race starts to look different. The urge to prove your worth by how busy you are begins to feel empty. You start to understand that busyness isn't the same as meaning, and doing more doesn't always lead to living better. In younger seasons of life, productivity often defined identity. You might have felt validated when your calendar was full, when you checked off to-do lists, or when others praised your hustle. But now you start to value space, stillness, time to think, time to simply be without needing a reason. What once felt like accomplishment may now feel like noise. You find yourself craving depth instead of pace, choosing to pour your attention into one meaningful thing instead of a dozen rushed ones. Whether it's tending to a garden, writing a letter by hand, or just sitting on the porch as the sun sets, these slower rhythms aren't a sign of idleness. They're a return to what matters. And here's the truth. You've already proven yourself through years of showing up, working hard, giving, sacrificing. You don't need to keep proving that your time is valuable. It is valuable, whether you're producing or resting, fixing, or simply watching the world go by. Letting go of that internal scoreboard opens the door to a deeper kind of presence. You begin to measure your days, not by how much you've accomplished, but by how alive you felt doing it. Not by what got done, but by what was felt, noticed, shared. After 61, productivity becomes a tool, not a ruler. You use it when it serves you, and when it doesn't, you finally feel free to put it down. Number 10. Keeping silent about what matters. There comes a point, often after 61, when staying quiet no longer feels wise. It feels like a waste. For much of life, you might have held your tongue to keep the peace, avoid awkward moments, or because you didn't feel it was your place. But now you start to understand that your voice is one of the most powerful tools you have, and withholding it costs more than it used to. Whether it's speaking up in a doctor's office, having a hard conversation with family, or simply saying, "That's not okay," your willingness to speak truth becomes less about confrontation and more about clarity. It's not that you enjoy conflict, it's that you've seen what happens when things go unsaid. Misunderstandings grow, resentments harden, opportunities for connection slip away. You've lived enough to know that sugarcoating doesn't serve anyone, so you start choosing honesty over harmony. Kind honesty, grounded honesty, but honesty nonetheless. You realize that speaking your mind doesn't make you difficult. It makes you real. It helps others see the full picture instead of assuming one. And when you do speak, it carries weight, not because you're loud, but because your words are backed by years of lived experience. People listen differently when they know you're not speaking for attention, but from intention. And the more you use your voice, the more others feel permission to use theirs too. So whether it's advocating for yourself, calling out something unfair, or simply expressing what you need, you stop editing your truth to make others comfortable. Not out of bitterness, but because you've realized that your silence won't save anyone, but your honesty just might. Number 11. Comparing your life path to others. After 61, one of the most freeing realizations is this: there is no normal timeline, no official scoreboard, no universally approved checklist that tells you whether you've done life the right way. You begin to see how different everyone's journey really is, and how much suffering comes from believing you should have done things like someone else. Maybe your neighbor retired earlier. Maybe your old friend remarried and found new love. Maybe someone else your age just traveled the world or started a business. And for a moment you might wonder, did I miss something? But as you settle deeper into yourself, you recognize that this kind of comparison steals joy from the life you do have, because your path wasn't supposed to look like theirs. It was never meant to. Every choice, every detour, every late start, or unexpected pause shaped you in ways you couldn't have planned. The losses you endured, the people you cared for, the work you gave your heart to, it all mattered. Even if it didn't come with applause or picture-perfect moments, you stop asking, am I where I'm supposed to be? And start asking, am I being honest with myself now? And that shift allows you to appreciate your journey, not for how it looks on paper, but for how deeply it's changed you. Comparison fades and contentment rises, not because your life suddenly becomes perfect, but because it becomes yours again. And when you truly embrace that your timeline is your own, everything feels lighter. The regrets soften, the pressure quiets, and you begin to live each day as its own chapter, not as a test against someone else's story, but as a quiet celebration of your own. Number 12. Pretending you're not tired. There's a kind of performance that many people carry for decades. Pushing through, powering on, smiling through fatigue, as if rest were a luxury instead of a need. But after 61, pretending you're not tired starts to feel like a game you no longer want to play. And truthfully, you shouldn't have to. You've earned the right to rest without guilt, to sit down when your body asks you to say I'm going to take it slow today and mean it. The idea that your worth is tied to how long you can go without pause just doesn't hold up anymore. If anything, it begins to feel absurd. You see, fatigue isn't weakness, it's information. It's your body telling you that something needs care, and ignoring that message doesn't make you strong. It just makes the recovery longer. But when you start honoring your energy, noticing what drains you, what fills you, and what rhythms feel right, you start living in deeper alignment with yourself. This doesn't mean you stop moving or doing things that matter. It means you stop pretending. You stop apologizing for needing a nap, or for skipping a gathering, or for saying, I just don't have it in me today. And instead of feeling shame, you feel relief. Relief that you've stopped treating your body like a machine and started treating it like a companion. The people around you benefit from that honesty too. It gives them permission to slow down, to listen to their own needs, to show up more fully when they're rested. After 61, you begin to understand that pacing yourself isn't falling behind. It's choosing sustainability over burnout. And there's nothing lazy about that. It's wise, it's intentional. It's what your next years deserve. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, take a quiet moment to reflect on what resonated with you most. Was there one idea that felt especially true? One burden you realized you've been carrying a little too long? Or maybe a shift you've already begun to feel deep in your bones but hadn't quite named yet? The truth is, after 61, so much of what once felt urgent or important begins to fade, and what remains, the peace, the clarity, the honesty, is what you've been moving toward all along. Letting go of what no longer makes sense isn't about giving up. It's about returning to yourself, to what matters, to the kind of life that feels lived, not just managed. So here's a question for you. Which one of these 12 things are you most ready to release? Or maybe which one have you already let go of? And how did it change you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.